What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League podcast, back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leake. We got Dean back on the show. Dean, good to have you on as always.
Yeah, it's good to be with you again, Alex.
Yeah, and this is college football talk once again. We have Dean on every time we talk college football, and it's always fun having you on and getting your expertise and your knowledge as someone that's watched a ton of college football in your life. And we're going to talk about um, week 8 of the college football season, a little bit about week 7. Um, First of all, what were your thoughts on Washington? Uh, the big matchup of week 7 was Washington and Oregon in Seattle. And my thinking was kind of the home field advantage of Seattle and Washington in that stadium. But really, in my opinion, Oregon had opportunities to win this game and kind of gave it away, going for it on fourth down with like 2 minutes to go, um, missing the field goal that would have sent it to overtime. Missed opportunities for Oregon, in my opinion. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, I did too. I mean, the, both teams played pretty good. I mean, but it was again some questionable decisions. Um, and
Yeah.
I mean, when you gamble, I mean, it may come back to bite you. And I think in this case for Oregon, it did.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the Oregon Ducks motto for a while now is to be aggressive, especially, on
Yeah,
offense and go for it on fourth downs and go for 2-point conversions. And, if that's your MO, more power to you. But if it bites you in the butt and you lose a big game, then you're going to get questioned on it, right?
I think so too. There's a time and a place for that kind of aggressiveness.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta really look at the whole uh, scenario and not just do something just because you feel like it. Uh,
Yeah,
there's consequences to making all these decisions. But
yeah, absolutely.
Washington earned it. So
Yeah, and that quarterback, Michael Penix, played really well in the biggest game probably of his career and willed that team to a win. It looked like he was playing through an injury and really toughened it out and came up in the clutch.
yeah,
So big win for Washington to take into week 8. And then Notre Dame, how about Notre Dame blowing out USC? Not just beating them, but beating them soundly, 48-20. Caleb Williams throws 3 interceptions, and USC turns the ball over 5 times. Notre Dame plays a complete game, dominates all 3 phases. I mean, if Notre Dame played like that every week, they would be unstoppable. They would be title contenders. What are your thoughts on that game?
honestly, Alex, I think that was um, what everybody expected out of Notre Dame that are Notre Dame fans from the
Uh huh.
beginning.
Yeah.
And the way the I guess the season has gone has surprised us.
Yeah.
Because we know that they had the complete package,
Yeah.
and that proved it right there.
Hmm.
They wanted that ball game.
And they were, yeah. I mean, they brought it, and I think they were upset. They had a bad taste in their mouth after the week before, and caught, took it out on USC. And plus, it's a rivalry game, and it's nice to see Notre Dame bounce back in a big way and look the way that they're supposed to look and play a complete game and um, thoroughly kick USC's butt.
Yeah, and I think it kind of gave the rest of the competition out there something to look at as far as how to defend the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, what did you think of how Caleb Williams played? Uh, he looked flustered, right? And
Yeah,
three interceptions, I believe, all in the first half. And it really the game got away from him quickly. Wasn't it 28-0? It was a blowout early, right?
yeah, yeah. I
What
mean,
did
they were just all he was running for his life. I mean,
Yeah,
so I mean that just tells everybody else that go after him.
yeah. Is that would you be worried about so Caleb Williams is everyone's, penciled in number one overall pick in the NFL. Would would you be worried about Caleb Williams based on what you've seen?
Um,
Or
well, I mean, this is college football level. You get to the pro level,
hmm
and if you don't have a good line to keep you protected, and you're going to run all over the place, you're not going to be any good.
yeah, we're seeing that with Bryce Young now, who was amazing at Bama in
Yeah,
college,
yeah,
and his Panthers, he's 0-6 right now.
yeah. So, um, I mean, I think Williams is an excellent quarterback, but I'm not sure he's the best in the nation.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely interesting, and that was a statement win for Notre Dame, and really knocked USC around, and USC for thinking that they were a championship contender. That's a real humbling loss in South Bend.
Well,
Um,
I don't know that they look at that as a bad loss, other than disappointing.
yeah,
I'm sure they went in realized that Notre Dame could do this.
hmm
But I thought they probably thought that they were going to at least be in the ball game.
absolutely. And even I was, because they got down big, and then USC started making a run, and even in my head in that second half, I was like, I expect Caleb Williams to get it going at some point, get that high powered offense going, and get back into this game and make it interesting towards the end. But they just kept turning the ball over. And
Yeah.
credit to Notre Dame's defense, they were very opportunistic in this game.
Right.
So, um, and then so Louisville, who had beat Notre Dame and was undefeated and all eyes were on them after beating Notre Dame. That was their statement win, and it's like, all right, let's see how far Louisville can go. And then they see their undefeated season come to an end against Pittsburgh, and this one wasn't even that close, losing 38-21. How surprised were you that Pitt took down Louisville?
I I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe that they. I mean, that was. I don't know. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah,
Uh, Pittsburgh is not playing that well,
yeah,
and for Louisville to stumble there, I'm quite surprised. Although I don't really think Louisville is one of the big guys.
yeah.
So
That's pretty
you know,
evident now. Yeah,
they just figured they were going to lose one somewhere.
yeah. And I mean, conference game on the road, those are always tough, but to lose by 17, that's a,
Yeah,
a bad look.
yeah.
Um, this is the game where I was this is the game where I gave up hope on my Michigan State Spartans for this year. When they jumped out to a 24-6 lead on Rutgers and then blow that lead and lose 27-24. That just goes to show that Michigan State isn't a very good team this year. And Rutgers is a solid team, but you have to be able to put teams away. And to blow an 18-point lead, that's a terrible loss for Michigan State.
Um, well, I I think that was a contest of pretty close talent
Mm-hmm.
on both sides.
Yeah.
Rutgers is playing pretty good ball, and Michigan State isn't.
Yeah.
So I mean, um, I was hoping Michigan State would be able to pull that thing out too. They looked like they were going to, but
Well,
um, but I'm not
yeah,
surprised Rutgers beat them.
yeah. I was nice. I was glad to see that Michigan State made the switch at quarterback. This new guy has provided a little bit of a spark, but the problem with Michigan State is that they're going through so much right now as a university, losing the head football coach, a lot of off the field drama, and it's forcing some of these players to leave to get to, stop playing and transfer out and not want to be part of the program. And so I think that's part of the issue too. I think Rutgers I think Rutgers is the better team.
Yeah,
And they're the better coach team for sure.
yeah,
And so, you know, um, yeah, after that loss, I didn't have any hope going into the Michigan game, and
yeah. It would
rightfully,
have it would have been a more of a sting for Rutgers if they'd have lost,
yes, yeah,
because
and
they were the better team.
yeah, and so at least they got it done and avoided the loss. How about this is a surprising game with Iowa with their quarterback out, goes into Madison and beats Wisconsin 15-6. You had to be surprised by that outcome.
Yeah, and that's still on the questionable end.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, Iowa. I mean, you know, once they lost the quarterback, I thought they were who was their quarterback? McNamara. Yeah,
yes, yeah.
yeah, Cade McNamara. Once they lost him for the season, I thought Iowa would be done. But to their credit, they kept fighting. And win in Wisconsin. So that's an impressive win anytime you do that. And then how about still undefeated Air Force? Got their first tough test against Wyoming and came out with the win 34-27. Air Force just keeps winning, huh?
Isn't that something? Yeah, those Flyboys are doing all right.
Yeah, I'm rooting for them. I need to get my
Yeah.
brother. My brother was in the Air Force. I need to get him rooting for the team, following along.
Well, I would think that'd be automatic, but
Yeah. I don't think he watches much Air Force though.
yeah,
Usually at least.
yeah, probably not.
um so yeah, we talked about Michigan, 49 nothing over the Spartans in East Lansing. Just I didn't watch a minute of this game. I watched like a snap in the first half and then quickly changed the channel. There was so much better football on that no need to waste on that game. Um Real quick, you see the allegations around Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. I believe, and tell me if you agree. I think, regardless of the outcome, this is his last year at Michigan. I think he's leaving. I think he was had 1 foot out the door already, and now I think he's got 2 feet out the door. His goal is to win the national championship and leave on that note. But regardless of the outcome of the season, I think this is his last year as head coach at Michigan. Do you agree?
Geez, I don't know. It's hard to get into minds and situations like that.
Yeah,
I always thought he was a perfect fit for
he is.
Michigan,
Yeah.
and I know that there's some turmoil and this latest thing about spying. You know,
Hmm.
what what team doesn't spy on their opponent?
Yeah.
Somehow, they they're aware of what the other team's practicing and doing.
Yep.
What I don't really understand the big deal about this.
Well, it's I agree with you, and it's one of those things where if someone brings attention to it and catches you in the act, then they're gonna go after you. But it's widely known that pretty much everyone does this, and you just can't get caught, right? You have to cover your tracks.
Well, I mean, I think just about any team can get caught in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
because that's just, when you scout your opponent, right?
Yeah.
Every weekend you got a different opponent. You go scout them, right?
Yeah.
So that means you're taking notes and you're finding ways of getting information. And I mean, that's just to me always been the way the game was done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're worried about them stealing your signals, well, mix it up.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
up to you to
don't use the
change.
same signals all the time.
Exactly.
Use your head and
Yeah.
understand that you've been checked out.
Yeah.
So why is it a big deal? I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, you should know every game you play is on TV and is going to be watched by everyone. And there's going to be plenty of people at the games that are going to be checking you out, trying to find tendencies, anything they can see that they can take advantage of, and figure you out. That's just, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
really see anything wrong with it, but it just is another step in the direction to Harbaugh probably leaving, especially if there's any kind of punishment on the program. And then you say Harbaugh's a perfect fit at Michigan. I agree, but he's also a perfect fit with the Chicago Bears in the NFL as well. So I'm
Yeah,
really
that's what
pushing
you
for that.
if the truth come out, that's what you want.
We're so down bad. He's our only savior at this point.
And I mean, I don't know, maybe it would work out for him in a job like that. I don't know what to think really. I guess it will all work its way out, but
Yeah,
I don't know why um, you'd want to leave a program like that when you're getting to the point where you're it.
yeah, I agree. But he has a tendency of leaving like no matter where he's at, he only stays for about 5 years, and then he seems to always go on to the next step. But Michigan is one of those places where you could see Harbaugh being for a long time. So
Yes.
it's an interesting conversation for sure. Um, and you know, regardless, none of this really matters. Like they're still built to win now, and don't let all this distraction get in your way. Just finish the job and win a national championship, and then no one will care if it leads to a national championship. At Michigan,
Yeah.
but so we'll see if they can get the job done. Um, one of the big, you know, hurdles they're going to have to jump is Ohio State, and they haven't slipped up really at all either. They're uh, stay undefeated and beat Penn State 20-12, a statement win for Ohio State against a very good Penn State team, and their defense first and foremost. Ohio State defense just always seems to be playing great football every year.
Yeah. Yeah, they're well coached and they've got talent. That
Mhm.
you'd expect it.
Why why do you think why does Penn State always come up short in the big games, right? They can't get over whether it's Ohio State or Michigan or whatever it is. Penn State can't get over that hump.
It's almost like a psychic thing, you
Yeah,
know? I mean, it's like the teams that go in and play Alabama in a Southeast Conference every year. I
yeah,
mean, they got the talent to beat them, but they get in there and they give them a tussle for a while, but they end up losing. I mean,
yeah.
it's in their heads, I think, more than
Yeah,
anything. Once you beat them, it changes everything.
yeah,
Like the Michigan thing,
yeah,
that
exactly.
that changed the whole attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Oh,
I mean, you just can't. If you're going to move up the next rung in the ladder, you got to beat those guys,
yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
evidently not there.
Yeah, and we'll see if James Franklin can get them there or what the next step is. But And that speaking of that, it's going to set up an incredible Ohio State Michigan matchup this year. That's going to have everyone's eyes on it, and we'll see if Michigan can do it 3 years in a row. But Ohio State looking pretty good.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough thing to do. The three-peat's pretty tough.
Yeah, whether it's Michigan against Ohio State or Georgia overall, it's hard to do it 3 times in a row.
Right.
Let's talk. Florida State takes down Duke 38-20. Florida State hitting on all cylinders as well. They've had a couple scares, but they have kept it stayed clean, you know?
Yes, they have. They're
So,
they're they're you're going to reckon with them. They're going to be there in the end, I think.
yeah.
Um, I think that their schedule is not all that difficult ahead of them now.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I would suspect that they may run the gamut.
Yeah. And so they'll be fun to watch if they can get into the playoffs. Um, this is the shocker of the weekend, really. Uh, Washington, how great they looked against Oregon, survives a major scare against a one-win Arizona State team late Saturday night in Seattle at home. Michael Penix Jr. 3 first-half turnovers, and the only thing that kept Washington into this game was Arizona State couldn't score, couldn't put up the points, couldn't capitalize on those turnovers. If they could have, that game would have been over likely, but Washington able to get back into it and survive. But a very scary game for Washington at home against a bad Arizona State team. That was crazy.
Yeah, but Alex, this is college football, and these are kids, so
Mm-hmm.
um, you got to be up for every game. You can't take anybody light. It's pretty hard to turn it on and turn it off and then turn it back on.
Yeah.
So um, uh, it's not that Arizona State isn't a decent team though, but I didn't think it was going to be that much to reckon with.
Yeah, and so low scoring, right? You would think Washington's offense would keep it rolling, and they're so talented they should put up 30 plus almost every game, and to only put up 15
Yeah,
is
it
pretty
shouldn't have been
crazy.
close, but kudos, they won.
Yeah, yep. And they survived, like we say every week, turnovers will kill you in football, and they turn the ball over but are able to survive it. So that's the good news.
Yeah,
How about Oklahoma surviving a scare against UCF? A failed 2-point conversion late gives them the win, but 31-29 against UCF.
yeah, I didn't expect that.
Yeah,
Not at all. I was very surprised. I thought Oklahoma would pretty much take care of them at home.
yeah.
They were favored by 19, and that wasn't a good show.
But
If they'd have
it,
lost that, wow, uh,
yeah,
that would have
yeah,
that would have upset everything for the Big 12 and their opportunity.
yeah. After winning, such a hard fought win over Texas, and then to lose that. But
Yeah,
to their credit, to Washington's credit, you played a bad game, but you still find a way to win. Um,
that's right.
Unlike North Carolina, who falls to Virginia 31-27, a one-win Virginia team going into that game in North Carolina, and it's Virginia's first road win versus a top 10 team in school history. Can you believe that?
What'd you say?
First road win versus a top 10 team ever for Virginia.
Yeah, and to beat to beat a North Carolina at home, I mean that's just
Yeah.
I don't know. You just wonder again whether the kids are focused when they get beat like that
Yeah.
because they're looking at the records too,
Hmm.
and they're thinking, well, we'll get by this one and go on to the next one.
Yeah. I mean, favored by
Doesn't always
20.
work that way.
Yeah, favored by 23.5 points.
Yeah,
Uh, so incredible. And I think what played a role in the outcome, I mean, it might not have been the difference, but I thought Mac Brown made an interesting decision. There's about 3 minutes to go in the game, and they're down in the red zone, and he goes for it on 4th and 12 and gets a turnover on downs, down four. And I think if you kick the field goal, make it a one point game, then trust your defense, come back down and kick a field goal. That's an easier recipe than forcing a touchdown, don't you think?
yeah. There's not very many fourth down and 12 that work.
Yeah,
I mean, I tend to, I mean, if you're going to go for it, do something more like a fake punt or something,
yeah.
where
Or
you actually got a chance.
or a fake field goal or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
something you've
right. Or a fake field
practiced.
goal, but
Yeah,
you just line up and try to go for it. That's hard to do.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but I mean, they knew they needed a big score and not a little score, so I can understand a little bit.
yeah.
But you should be able to stop Virginia anytime you want.
Yeah, and
So
then make it.
what's the deal?
Yeah. No, I just think sometimes these coaches get caught up in the moment,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the heat of the moment, those are tough decisions. When you're down four and the clock is getting less and less in the fourth quarter and a game you can't afford to lose. I understand the pressure, but this is where you trust your gut and trust your football instincts. Mac Brown's coached and seen a ton of football. Trust your instincts here and don't force it and don't go towards analytics or something like that. Like just let the game play out, trust your defense, inch your way back into it instead of trying to get it all at once, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like a panic decision. I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't get it either.
yeah. Um, Alabama, despite losing that game to Texas early in the season, they've kept rolling and won some pretty impressive games. They beat Tennessee 34-20, number 17 ranked Tennessee. Are you is Alabama, still in the mix for sure in the SEC?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Um, they're basically in front right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody that's undefeated in their group.
Yeah.
I think next to them is Ole Miss, which has a loss,
Yeah.
and LSU that has two losses.
Yeah.
And Bama's beat Ole Miss. I don't know about LSU; they haven't played them yet.
No.
That's coming up, so it will be decided between probably those two guys.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, Bama's in a pretty strong position right now.
A lot of people, we've talked about it. I've heard other people talk about it, how Alabama just seemed down this year. But credit to, maybe it's the coaching staff or the home field advantage and just who Bama's been built into over all these years. But they're tough to beat, and they just keep finding ways to win football games. They got the quarterback situation figured out, and I'm stuck with Jalen Milroe now, and he seems to be playing with more confidence, and they just seem to be playing good football. So I don't think anyone wants to see them, the rest of the year. They're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I still think Alabama's talented. They've always been talented, and
Yeah,
they're talented now. The thing that they don't have, which they've had in the past few years, is a superstar.
yeah,
That's the only difference. So
yeah,
we look at
yeah.
them and they're barely winning, and we're going, oh boy, But they have plenty of power,
Mm-hmm.
and they can still run the table and win that. But if they get matched up against Georgia, that may be a eye opener.
Yeah, and I want to see that matchup. I think that would be a fun matchup. Give me Georgia, but that's gonna, I'll be interested to see how, if anyone can beat Georgia, it'd be Bama, right? So
Yep.
that'll be fun. And then something about Tennessee, you know, you can remember when Peyton Manning was there and Tennessee was a legit contender and a very good team. I have not seen Tennessee be good in so many years that I don't trust this team. Every year, Tennessee comes in with hype and disappoints, and I just can't buy into Tennessee. Can you understand my thinking there?
Yeah, I really think the decline was after they got rid of their coach,
Yeah,
Fulmer.
yeah,
I mean, he had a rough year and they got rid of him, and it's like they haven't been any good since,
yeah,
or at least contending since.
yeah. I
So,
mean,
you know, I think they just shot themselves in the foot doing that. You know,
it's similar to
just because the coach has one bad year, you don't get rid of the guy.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
Auburn does.
yeah. No, it's similar to like Penn State. Like every year, can't win the big game, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
we'll
this
keep.
should have been, um, I think, with the expectations of Tennessee had, this was their opportunity this year,
Yeah,
and they faltered.
yeah. Well, with what Joe Milton, right, at quarterback, and I remember last year going into the Georgia game, the hype that Tennessee was getting going into that Georgia game with Hendon Hooker, and I remember my pick saying Georgia by double digits. I just don't trust this Tennessee team, and yeah, they seem to do it every year. So
Yep.
we'll see if they can get it turned around. What do you think of Ole Miss Auburn? A hard fought game, one score win for Ole Miss. Were you happy with the way Auburn looked against Ole Miss?
They gave him a game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it, right now, where Auburn is sitting, as far as I think, everybody looked at Auburn. They want them competitive.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really expect them to win all the games.
Yeah.
I mean, they won the first three games, but that competition wasn't all that tough.
Yeah.
But once you get into playing some tougher teams, what you want is to see them compete
Yeah.
and maybe even pull it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a they lost by the margin I think that they expected Ole Miss to have.
Yeah.
I think they were favored like I think at 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty close. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Keeping it competitive, and
but
I
I
remember.
mean, no one wants to lose, but when you lose, and it's embarrassing, that's hard to take.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Auburn's done well and been competitive. I remember, that game against Georgia. They were in it until the end. So
Yeah.
uh, they're rebuilding. They're trying to build something. So
Yes.
baby steps, and we'll see if this year be competitive. Next year, let's see if they can take the next step. So um, and then another shocker of the weekend. Number 14 Utah stuns USC 34-32 at the Coliseum. Bryson Barnes comes through in the clutch. I kept talking about Cam Rising and how Utah is not going to be the team they need. They can be without Cam Rising. Maybe I was wrong. Bryson Barnes really impressed me at the end of this game against USC and came through, and Utah stuns USC. What were your thoughts on this game as USC loses their second game in a row?
Well, I think they learned. They went to the film room and they saw what worked for one team might work for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they used a little bit of that insight. And Utah's if they've got a quarterback that's doing anything at all, they can move the ball.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I figured it'd be a close game,
Yep.
but I'm just amazed that they lost that game at home.
Yeah. I agree. I was on the same boat. Like, I think it's going to be close and hard fought, but you look at Caleb Williams in that offense and say, I think USC will find a way to get it done. And Caleb Williams is supposed to have that superstar potential and be clutch, and
Yeah.
but he's had some turnover issues. He didn't play great in this game as well, and is USC out of the playoff picture already? I mean, pretty close to it.
Well, two losses, yeah, you're out.
Yeah. So tough year for USC, a tough year for Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, and it's crazy to see it end like that. Um,
Well,
Utah.
doesn't that tell you that um, they need to do something about their defense?
Hmm.
I mean, if they had any decent defense at all, they probably would have been undefeated.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have had the close calls with other teams so far this season as well.
Yeah, I mean they were close to losing several other games.
Hmm. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I definitely know the defense is an issue, but the last two games, what stuck out to me the most is Caleb Williams, and I've got some real concerns with him about the way he's played the last two games. So
Yes,
we'll see how they look going forward, and if they can bounce back and he can look better the rest of the year.
they have Washington, Oregon, and UCLA left.
Yeah, I mean they could
Good
really
luck.
come off the rails. Yeah, so I'll be keeping a close eye on USC the rest of the year. Utah rules out Cam Rising for the rest of the season. He won't play this season. So it's a Bryson Barnes show, and he's got him in the mix with just one loss. We'll see how far Utah can go with the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
But they're a fun team to watch. I kind of like this Utah team. Um, how about Air Force stays undefeated again, 17-6 win over Navy. They just keep chugging along.
Yeah, that's nice to see actually.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not surprised with Navy, so
yeah,
I think that's probably one of their easier games, but they didn't win by much.
yeah, yep. There's probably familiarity there. Navy probably gets up for that game, trying to be Air Force's first loss.
Yeah.
But I've watched a couple Air Force games this year. This is the most Air Force I've watched ever, so I'm having some fun following along.
Yeah, I'm really glad for them to do that.
Yeah. Um, and then how about this game? Iowa, after impressive wins without McNamara, has a home game against Minnesota and loses 12-10. A really tough loss for Iowa at home, and in my opinion, a really bad call late in what would have been the go-ahead punt return for a touchdown that would have probably sealed the win for Iowa. It gets called back. Officials say that he was waving for a fair catch. Did you see that? I thought it was a terrible call.
Yeah, I did see that. Um, I don't believe it yet.
Yeah,
I don't. I always understood that a fair catch signal was an arm above your head waving.
yeah,
There wasn't any of that.
yeah,
I mean, he might have been moving his arm, but it was down by his uh, knees or whatever.
yeah,
That was not a fair catch call at all.
yeah.
And even the runner, he when he was asked about it, he says, "No, I wasn't signaling for a fair catch." I mean, obviously that's what he's going to say, but obviously he wasn't.
Yeah,
I was just absolutely uh, floored when they called that back.
Yeah, me too. It's like, yeah, we thought that everything was good. You know, we watched the entire play and you see nothing, and then there's the flag. And, you know, even on replay, it was like, what are they calling here? Like, this makes no sense.
No,
Um,
I really think they got the shaft on that one. I really do. That
yeah.
bothers me. That bothers me now because now, um, if that's the guidelines, you can call it on anybody.
Yeah, and we've seen plenty of times where the returner will like move his arms crossways, like telling the teammates to get away from the ball, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if that's the standard. That's a terrible standard. You said it perfectly right. It needs to be a waving arm back and forth up above the head. Obvious, you know.
Yes. Yes.
So you don't signal for a touchdown with your hands down by your waist. You know, we know what these hand
Yeah.
signals mean. So I don't know. Um, so tough way for Iowa to lose in that
Yeah. Well,
one.
the thing of it is that um, that puts their uh, division in jeopardy now
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
Wisconsin winning, um, Wisconsin has two losses, and now Iowa's got two losses.
Yeah.
Although Wisconsin's got to play Ohio State, so I mean, but that uh, that really didn't do Iowa any good.
Yeah. Yeah. You hate to see refs come in and decide a game like that or make a, when when everyone believes it to be a bad call. So
No, I don't. That's what you don't want is something like that to decide a game.
yeah. Miami with a win over Clemson in double overtime, 28-20. Good win for Miami, and Clemson falls to 4-3. You know, they're still struggling a bit. You know, we'll see if they can bounce back and get it right. But a tough year for Clemson.
Yeah, yeah, they're down for sure. When you start losing to teams like Miami,
Hmm.
um, Miami's not a bad team, but they're not the type of team that Clemson ought to lose to yet.
Yeah,
So that's not a loss.
yeah. Let's look at the numbers through week 8. So we've got Ohio State number 1, Oklahoma 2, Florida State 3, all bunched together, separated by less than 2 points.
Yeah,
So love to see the parity at the top of the numbers, and it's going to be fun. I mean, right now you can see how wide open it is.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, I I'm looking forward to. I mean, we're going to get a lot of questions answered here in the remaining weeks of the season, but at this point in the season, it's so wide open. There's no clear cut favorite. Georgia fans are going to tell you it's Georgia, but Michigan fans are going to tell you it's them. You know, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Florida State, Washington. There's a lot of believers out there, and we'll
Well,
see.
Georgia, Georgia, yeah, I understand what they're talking about, Georgia, but what they're thinking about with Georgia is last season.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, their schedule hasn't been that tough,
Hmm.
and the rest of their schedule isn't that tough either.
Hmm.
They got Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee.
Yeah.
Those are games they should win, and not because it's Georgia. It's just that that's Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee.
Yeah.
So they should win those ball games.
And those are going to be considered good wins over Ole Miss and Tennessee, but me and you are going to judge them based on how they do against Alabama or someone real. You know, I don't think either of us have Ole Miss or Tennessee as that top tier.
No, They're not.
Yeah.
They're tier two, and you know that.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
So I don't think Georgia's played anybody in the top tier,
Yeah.
and they won't until probably the championship game for the SEC.
Yeah. And then, that's when it becomes prove it time for Georgia. SEC championship and playoffs.
But that's a tough time to prove yourself,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're not really tested that much, and then you get into the championship game, and that's it's a hard goal. It's
Yeah,
not
you
you
could
couldn't.
you could afford a slip up earlier in the season if you gave yourself a tough matchup here or there. But to turn it on in the playoffs when it's do or die, and we saw them, almost trip up in the playoffs last year against Ohio State.
Yeah,
So, and yeah, it is a different Georgia team, and a new quarterback that has to prove it. So
yeah.
we'll see. But I love the wide open uh, outlook on the season right now, and can't wait to see how it unfolds. But
Yeah,
uh,
I'm a little disappointed to see that the polls are not giving any recognition hardly at all to James Madison and
yep,
and Liberty
yep, and Air
um,
Force,
and Air Force.
yeah, but
Um,
more, yeah,
I'm just a little surprised that you know it's just that the poll people uh, they got their group that they think are the better teams, whether they are or not,
mm-hmm,
and you got to really overprove yourself when you're one of these Air Forces or Madison or Liberty. You got to do more than just win all your games,
yeah,
you know. Um, and obviously, both of them could go undefeated and not even be talked about
yeah.
as far as any kind of playoff hope.
Well, that's why I can't wait, and that's why it was much needed to expand the playoffs. And when we go to 12 teams, that's when it's going to be fun because if you've got a top 12 in the playoffs, you have to throw in if Air Force or James Madison or any of these teams go undefeated, you have to throw them in there and give them a shot. And that's what we've been saying and arguing about since a lot forever. Way before any playoffs when it was just number one and number two.
Yeah,
Um, that if you go undefeated, you deserve a chance. And so, how much fun would it be to have a playoff where Liberty sneaks in as the 12 seed and they're undefeated and that they get an opportunity, right?
well, I mean, and they'd probably face the number one team,
Mm-hmm.
and odds are they wouldn't win, but you
But
don't know that.
that'd be must-watch TV, though, right? It'd
Yeah,
be so much fun.
sure would.
I mean, I would sign up for a Georgia James Madison playoff game right now. Like that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then imagine the upset, right?
well, it would really shake the pillars, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be so cool. I mean, you think about how much fun March Madness is, right? And that's because of the rare 16 over 1, 15 over 2. And that's what expanding the college football playoff does is it allows for chaos and everyone loves chaos. I mean, look how much
Yeah,
fun everyone had with TCU last year, right?
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, you remember, a few years back there was Boise that came along and started knocking off guys and finally got recognition,
yeah.
and Appalachian State, and
Yeah.
there are those teams, but that's what James Madison and Liberty have to do, as well as Liberty. I mean, Air Force, they got to knock off a big guy
Yeah.
in order to ever get any acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And Boise did that, by knocking off Oklahoma
Mhm.
in a bowl game. So I mean, that's their only salvation according to the pollsters,
Yeah, and
not according to the numbers.
yeah, and I can see your frustration because by according to the numbers, James Madison's played a decent schedule. They've beaten some good teams, you know.
Yes.
According to the numbers, they're eighth ranked. So it's like you'd like to see them getting recognition elsewhere, and they're not even, they're number 25. But until we expand the playoffs, they have no shot.
Yeah, recognizing them as 25 has got to be a milestone for James Madison, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, but regardless, um, they don't qualify for any bowl game.
Yeah,
So, which is a dumb rule.
yeah,
But, I mean, if they run the whole course, they don't get to go to a bowl game. But I mean, why do you punish a team that's new in Division One just because they're new?
Oh, they don't get a bowl game because they're new? Is it like their first year?
It's their second year.
And is it like your first 2 years or something?
First 2 years, you don't get to go to a bowl game. It's like, well, who came up with that rule?
Yeah, that is a stupid rule. Like if you have success, put them in.
Yeah, reward them.
Yeah,
Reward the kids for playing that well.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up James Madison's schedule here. You know, they play Appalachian State, UConn, Georgia State. So we'll see. I mean, if they run the field and go undefeated, that'd be pretty cool and a ton of momentum to take into next year when they do expand the playoffs.
Yeah, but they won't be considered. Not yet.
Yeah,
It gets expanded, then there might be a little more talk about it.
yeah,
But what they need to do is next year do very well and get into a bowl game and
yeah,
knock off one of these so-called great teams.
yeah. But I mean, it just goes back to the point that I've always believed. It's like you play who's on your schedule, and if you go undefeated, you deserve a shot in the postseason, right?
Well, in a way, no, I don't say that flat out. That if you're undefeated, should get a nod for anything, because it depends on who you beat.
Yeah,
I mean, if James Madison would have just beaten a whole bunch of Division two teams,
yeah,
well then they wouldn't be there. But they beat Division one teams,
yeah,
and some of the teams on top of them played Division two teams.
yeah. That's true.
So you know,
Yeah, that's
um,
where that's where the numbers comes in handy right there.
that tells you a little bit more about their schedule.
Yeah. Um.
The the
Let's
Pac
look.
the Pac-12 though is still a mess,
Yeah.
because Washington's got a full slate of guys to play like USC, Utah, Oregon State, and Washington State.
Mhm.
And USC has Washington, Oregon, UCLA. Oregon has Utah, USC, Oregon State. And then Oregon State has to play Colorado, Oregon, and Washington. And then Utah still has Oregon, Washington, Colorado. What a mess.
It's crazy.
They're all
And
playing each other here at the rock.
yeah, if anyone comes out of that halfway looking
Undefeated.
good, yeah,
Yeah.
it's chaos and it's crazy because there's teams like Utah without Cam Rising, UCLA, Oregon State, and like Oregon State is a lot better than we thought right at this point.
Yeah.
So there's so I mean Washington State can beat anybody in a given week. So
Yes,
it's chaos over there. It's a lot
it
of
is.
fun and it's crazy that this is the last year of the Pac-12 because this is might
Yeah.
be the best year.
It's the last year and their best year. Isn't that
Yeah,
amazing? That's just so sad.
yeah. But they're all going to new conferences now, so we'll see if they're gonna need all that positive momentum going to tough, new new surroundings and tougher matchups, and then we'll see if they can. I like the idea of merging the Pac-12 and the Mountain West or whatever they got to do to create a solid, sustainable conference again.
Yeah, well, just don't call it the Pac-12 though.
Yeah,
I
all
mean,
the
it's not,
yeah the mountain something or the
you know,
Pac West or
yeah, you can don't call it the Pac-12. Call it something else.
yeah
Yeah, you're probably right. Pac West or
Mountain Pac.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
looking down here at the bottom of the numbers. Who's the worst? Akron at 1-7. Kent State. How about the only winless team left on the numbers, ranked 132nd, Sam Houston State.
yeah. And they played when? They played yesterday?
Oh yeah, let me look at that.
Yeah, they
Uh,
they lost. They lost, I think,
they're playing tonight,
tonight. Okay.
and they're losing 34-27 to UTEP.
Yeah.
So,
So they're gonna be have a goose egg too in the wrong column.
yeah,
They
looks
may
like
have they may have moved over too soon.
man, it looks like they had a lead going into the fourth quarter, and I've blown it. So,
Yeah. I don't know how when you get to the point where you got that many losses,
yeah,
how do you even get up to play?
yeah, I know.
That's got
You're
to be
you're
awful hard. You're 0-7 and you're going in and playing somebody that's better than you are,
yeah.
and then you get behind and it's like I don't know if I'd want to even suit up.
Yeah, your only motivation is like to avoid going winless, and you get down 14 points, and it's so easy, I think, at that point to just pack it in, right? And be
Yeah,
like, here we go again, you know?
yeah. This is our norm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen teams go into Division One and then go back out.
yeah.
So they may just decided that that's not their suit at all.
Let's look ahead at week 9. Uh, let's see, Thursday night. Syracuse at Virginia Tech. Syracuse started 4-0 and have lost 3 straight since. Um, playing Virginia Tech, we'll see who wins that. I mean, Virginia Tech, despite how bad they are and how down they've been, if they can win that one at home, they can get to 3-1 in the ACC.
Yeah,
And Syracuse 0-3 in conference play, so a
yeah.
big game for both teams.
Yes,
Um,
it is. Yeah.
um, Florida State at Wake Forest. I doubt that's a loss, but Florida State better play good football and not mess around with these teams.
Yeah, take them serious and you'll be fine.
Yep. Oklahoma at Kansas again. A game where you got to take them seriously.
Yes.
Oklahoma better play better than they did last week. That's for sure.
Yes, that's right.
Penn State, Indiana. That should be an easy win for Penn State. Um, Maryland, Northwestern. Maryland should be able to handle that one. Texas A&M, South Carolina. Clemson, NC State. It's a good game, but you know,
Yeah,
two
it doesn't
teams.
mean anything now.
Yeah, right. Two teams that not going anywhere. How about Georgia at Florida? Or this is a what do you call it? Not at home. Neither team's at home.
Which game is that?
Georgia, Florida,
Yeah, okay, yeah,
in Jacksonville.
yeah.
Uh, Any chance Florida gives? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But we'll see if Florida can play a good game against Georgia.
Well, Georgia's favored by 2 touchdowns, so I mean
Hmm.
that's not very many. You think about it, because Florida's not that good.
Yeah, and no Brock Bowers though for Georgia. So we'll
Yeah.
see if that plays a role at all. But I do expect Georgia to win. BYU at Texas. Texas should win, but BYU not bad this year.
No, they're decent. They're
But
you know
here,
they're going into a new conference. They're showing that they've got something.
yeah, at 3:30 is when the football really gets going. Oregon at Utah, a great matchup, and Oregon needs to bounce back. A tough, like we talked about the tough schedule. After losing to Washington, Oregon needs this one, and Utah coming off a monster win over USC. So I think you're going to get two teams playing their best game of football in this one.
Well, like I said before, in the Pac-12, all of these games are very, very important.
Yeah.
You don't want to get 2 losses
Hmm.
like USC. So whoever comes
Yeah.
out of that one's going to be on the upside.
I am rooting for Utah in this one. I'm having a hard time picking them, but I'm rooting for them big time against Oregon. I kind of like this Utah team, especially with the backup quarterback.
Yeah, it's kind of a guessing game there. I mean, it's hard to know whether that's uh, going to do the job or not. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I like Bo Nix,
Yeah.
and I think Oregon is and Washington are the best 2 teams in the Pac-12.
Yeah. I agree. But we'll see if Utah can get fired up and maybe use this. They're a touchdown underdog at
Yeah,
home. So maybe they can use that to fire themselves up. They have a solid defense. Bryson Barnes playing good football. So go Utah at home and a big test for Oregon. It's going to be a tough game.
for sure. Yes.
Pittsburgh at Notre Dame. I mean, a game that Notre Dame should handle pretty easily, but Pittsburgh did beat Louisville a couple weeks ago, but Notre Dame should be able to handle this one pretty easily.
I this for some reason this game bothers me
Yeah,
simply because Pittsburgh knocked off Louisville. I mean, I just don't know what Pittsburgh has.
yeah,
They're a big question mark in my mind,
yeah,
and I'm just saying that Notre Dame just better not be taking them light.
yeah, for sure. They should have learned their lesson from the Louisville game, and it might be closer than they're favored by 20 and a half. It might be less than
Yeah,
that. They
yeah,
could win by 14 or something, but I do think they do enough to get the win.
yeah. The main thing is to get the win.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Get to 7-2, and everyone will be happy. Um, how about this is a great game though. Duke at Louisville. Uh, an opportunity for Louisville to bounce back against a very good Duke team as well. So this will be a fun game.
Yeah, in my mind, it's kind of a toss-up.
Yeah,
I kind of actually favored Duke.
yeah.
I
Duke's
don't know why.
physical.
Who's
Yeah.
favored?
Louisville by 4.
Okay. Well, that's not much. That's a little, we're saying field goal maybe.
Yeah.
So they're
Hope.
saying it's going to be a tight game too.
Yeah. Hopefully one of those games that comes down to the wire. Um, let's scroll on down here. USC at Cal. We'll see how USC looks. Like we said, not an easy schedule from here on out. Have already lost 2 games. An opportunity to get a big bounce back win against Cal, and they're going to need it with the gauntlet coming up on their schedule.
Yeah, and Cal can surprise you.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not really that good, and it shouldn't be a problem.
yeah.
I mean, they should be able to score a bunch of points. It's a matter of how much they give up again.
um, undefeated number 5 Washington at Stanford. Now Washington, survived a scare last week against Arizona State, and Stanford with that massive comeback win over Colorado. So you
Yeah,
can't take this for granted. But Washington favored by 26 and a half. Washington should take this game seriously and win easily, but you never know in college football.
yeah, that's true. And I don't know if Stanford has got things working now
Yeah,
that they've responded. I mean, but I don't think they're that much of a threat if
no,
Washington plays their game.
yeah, and they that comeback against Colorado was historic, but
Yes, it was.
they got blown out by UCLA 42-7 last week. So I don't know what to make of the Stanford team. I
I
don't
don't
think they're
either.
very good. Yeah. Um, let's see here. How undefeated Air Force at Colorado State. This is a tough one because we saw how good of a game Colorado State gave to Colorado. This is a game Air Force needs to take seriously because this is a trap game where,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes,
Colorado State could surprise them.
absolutely.
But I'm rooting for Air Force. That's a team that I've adopted this year. They're fun to watch. How about number 21 Tennessee at Kentucky? A tough battle here. Tennessee is favored, but I could easily see Kentucky winning this one.
Yeah, I don't know how to look at that game now. I mean, both of those teams have faltered.
Yeah,
Um, I still feel like Tennessee is better,
yeah, I do too. But in
but man,
Kentucky,
I
who
don't
knows?
know. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to put money on either one of them.
And then how about this game? I mean, this could be a sneaky good game. We say this every week about when is Ohio State or Michigan going to trip up? Ohio State at Wisconsin. They're 14 and a half point favorites in Madison. Wisconsin could show up for this game and, potential upset.
Madison or Wisconsin has everything to win.
Yeah.
They're fighting for that conference side championship.
Yeah.
So they got to win this ball game to stay in the fight with Iowa.
Uh-huh.
So that might just be an interesting battle.
Yeah. And at
Ohio
home,
State has to go. They better play that game seriously.
yeah. As much of a test, I mean, against Maryland was at Ohio State. So
Yeah,
I think this is even more of a test.
yeah.
And so they better play their best football. I agree. But 14-point favorite seems high, in my opinion.
I don't know. I think that's legit if they both play their usual game.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
you get into a contest that means so much to one
hmm.
particular team that may not mean anything.
Yeah. Yep. And a rivalry game,
Yeah.
Big Ten. So that'll be a fun one to keep an eye on. Colorado at UCLA. I love watching this Colorado team. They're, one of the most fun teams in college football to watch. UCLA should win this one, but they're favored by 17. We'll see if Colorado can keep it closer than that, though.
Yeah, man, that's a lot to me.
Yeah,
I don't know that. I think that's a toss-up game in my mind.
me too. I
I'm
think
not
it.
impressed with UCLA,
Yeah, I
and I
could see
know
this.
what Colorado can do.
Yeah, I could see it turning into a shootout, and we've
Yeah,
seen
and you
when
don't want to get
Colorado.
into a shootout against Colorado.
Yeah, reminds me of Colorado USC, right? And that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So go Buffs. Rooting for Colorado in that one. North Carolina, Georgia Tech. North Carolina looking to bounce back after a bad loss. They should. They don't strike me as a team that's gonna suddenly fall off, right? They they are probably gonna learn that lesson from a bad loss, and they should bounce back and take care of business
Yeah, it's a
against
game that
Georgia
they
Tech.
should not have lost.
Yeah,
So, they're going to be itching to take their anger out on Georgia Tech.
yeah.
That
And
was a horrible loss. Really hurt them.
yeah, and they don't strike me as a team that's gonna lose two bad losses in a row.
Right.
I expect Mac Brown, the veteran quarterback Drake May, to get them back, on the right side of things.
Yes.
And then lastly, 10:30 p.m. kickoff. I've had a lot of fun watching Oregon State this year, and
Yeah.
they go to Arizona. They're only 3.5 point favorites, but give me Oregon State to take care of business and get this win.
No, I agree with that. I think they would. I really don't think they'll have any trouble with Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona snuck up on some teams, but I don't expect them to do it to Oregon State.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that, but still.
And their wide receiver Silas Bolden is really good over there. Him and DJ
Yes.
Ugalele. I like what Oregon. I mean, in my years, Oregon State very rarely has been that good, and so it's cool to see them playing well and in the mix this year.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember the last time I've seen Oregon State ranked number 11 or higher. So, but well, looking forward to another great week of football. Good to have you on as always, Dean. That was a lot of fun.
It's always good to be with you, Alex. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, it's the greatest sport in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you talked about the season going by fast. We're in week 9 now. So, and the further we get into the season, the more and more meaningful these games get. So, it's going to be fun from here on out. Uh, and we talked about how wide open it is. So, let's see who can come out of here with a national championship, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So, well, good stuff as always. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate all the support, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Stay tuned. Me and Dean will be doing some college football rewatches in the future. We got an NBA rewatch out. We're going to have an NFL rewatch out. Going to continue putting out the content every week. So stay tuned. Appreciate everyone. And have a great week. Peace out.